Greetings, viewers. Today we expose a dangerous myth, a golden trap forged 3,000 years ago. Society tells us a comforting lie every day. Endless wealth instantly solves all your problems. We firmly believe adding zeros to our bank accounts will finally unlock the door to happiness. We sacrifice our health and time every single day, chasing an endless accumulation of gold. What if this golden dream is actually a cage? Let us ask the wisest king in all of history. Look closely at the wealthy merchant in the Grand Bazaar, surrounded by massive piles of shiny gold coins. He firmly grasps heavy leather pouches in his hands, completely satisfied with his vast golden fortune. For him, every gleaming coin represents another step toward absolute power and total control. The society around him constantly bows down, praising the man who has conquered the mighty market. They see his expensive silk robes and heavy gold rings, believing he discovered the ultimate secret. The merchant laughs while counting his endless shining treasures, assuming his vast wealth will protect him forever. He hires countless guards to protect his massive vaults, building an impenetrable fortress of pure gold. Every morning, he wakes up calculating his profits, fully obsessed with multiplying his fortune. His lavish banquets are filled with the finest meats and wine, displaying a perfect image of success. The crowd watches with deep envy and growing dark desire, wishing they could trade places with the wealthy man. They whisper among themselves about his glorious life, dreaming of the day they become just like him. We are taught from a very young age to chase this exact vision, to measure our worth by our vast income. The glittering coins create a powerful illusion, blinding us to the heavy spiritual cost. We trade our precious youth for a few pieces of silver, ignoring the quiet warnings of our souls. This merchant believes his golden empire is invincible, standing strong against the cruel test of time. He buys fine horses and luxurious carriages, traveling through the dusty streets like a conqueror. People step aside, respecting his massive pockets, proving that wealth commands absolute authority. But deep inside his chest, a strange emptiness begins to grow, a void that no amount of gold can fill. He buys more expensive jewels to silence the quiet doubts, hoping that the shiny surface will bring him peace. Yet the hunger for more remains completely unsatisfied, demanding a greater sacrifice of time. This is the grand illusion of the ancient material world, a promise that is never fulfilled. We climb the endless ladder of absolute financial success, only to realize the top is lonely. The merchant locks his doors at night with heavy iron bars, terrified that someone will steal his treasures. His mind races with anxious thoughts about the falling markets, turning his warm bed to a torture chamber. Even surrounded by mountains of pure, sparkling gold, he cannot buy a single moment of true inner peace. The relentless pursuit of wealth creates a heavy burden, slowly crushing the human spirit under its weight. We have forgotten the true fundamental purpose of money, turning a simple tool to a harsh master. The merchant's smile begins to fade as the pressure builds, his golden empire becoming a beautiful prison. He views his endless riches and feels a sudden cold chill, wondering if this is all that life has to offer. The myth of absolute financial salvation finally cracks, revealing the dark reality hidden beneath. If you gained all the world's gold, but lost your inner peace, would you still consider yourself a massive success? To understand this tragic paradox of the human heart, we must travel back 3,000 years in time. We must enter the grandest palace ever constructed and meet the man who owned the entire ancient world. Enter the legendary kingdom of ancient Israel, glorious domain of the great King Solomon. His massive royal vaults are filled to the ceiling with pure gold, a fortune unmatched by any modern man. He possesses thousands of magnificent war chariots and a fleet of trading ships across the sea. Kings and queens from distant lands travel for long, heavy months, bringing him exotic spices and endless gems. The walls of his grand temple are completely covered in gold, shining bright beneath the hot desert sun. Silver is common as the stones upon the dusty ground, losing its true value in this magnificent kingdom. If wealth truly buys absolute happiness and pure peace, King Solomon should be the most joyful man alive. He has experienced every single luxury known to mankind, denying himself no worldly pleasure. Look at the wise king sitting upon his ivory throne, surrounded by absolute wealth and immense power. But his majestic face does not show a joyful, happy smile. Instead, his eyes carry a heavy sorrow. He stares blankly at the mountains of sparkling golden coins, realizing the absolute vanity of his life. The wisest monarch in history picks up a simple pen, preparing to write a warning to us all. In the shadows of his massive royal treasury, he documents the bitter truth about material wealth. He writes the book of Proverbs to shatter our illusions, saving future generations from this deadly trap. Solomon declares those trusting their vast riches will surely fall into a deep and terrible, dark ruin. He understands wealth is merely a temporary illusion, providing no true security for the soul. The king shakes his head as he inspects his heavy gold crowns, knowing they cannot protect him from human pain. He observes the merchants trading heavily in the Grand Bazaar, witnessing their endless greed and deep ambition. Solomon writes that a peaceful heart gives life to the body, but bitter envy rots the bones from within. He sees the love of money destroying families and friends, turning loving brothers into bitter enemies. The royal palace feels cold despite the hot summer heat, echoing with the hollow sound of meaningless gold. He realizes that all his massive wealth cannot buy an extra day of life, nor can it purchase true love. The wise king warns us that the sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat a little or eat a lot. But the massive abundance of the rich permits them no sleep, their minds tortured by endless financial worries. Solomon documents this painful reality with a heavy heart, leaving a spiritual map for all mankind. He challenges our deep beliefs of success and happiness, demanding we look far beyond the physical realm. His ancient words cut through the darkness like a sharp sword, exposing the lies we tell ourselves every day. The king warns that riches do not endure forever, and a crown is never secure for all generations. He paints a vivid picture of the fleeting nature of wealth, a warning that remains incredibly relevant now. We must listen closely to the sorrowful voice of this king before we make the exact same tragic mistake. Solomon reveals a terrifying metaphor in his ancient texts, an image perfectly capturing the truth. He forces us to look at the true nature of money, stripping away its beautiful and shiny disguise. Would you willingly trade your precious freedom for a heavy cage of gold? Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Let us return to the wealthy merchant in his darkened vault, the man who worshipped his heavy golden coins. He kneels on the cold stone floor, surrounded by his massive fortune, suddenly sensing a dark and terrible shift. In the book of Proverbs, Solomon issues a chilling warning. Cast a mere glance at riches, and they are quickly gone. The wise king explains that wealth will surely sprout its own mighty wings and fly off into the sky like an eagle. Suddenly, the merchant watches in absolute terror as his golden coins begin to vibrate on the cold stone floor. The shiny metal magically transforms before his eyes, melting into a dark and terrifying liquid. The beautiful golden glow fades into a harsh and rusty brown as the metal reshapes itself with brutal force. Those precious coins he spent his entire life collecting are now morphing into heavy chains of solid iron. The merchant screams as the cold, rusty metal wraps around his arms, binding his wrists with an unbreakable grip. This terrifying moment reveals when the ultimate financial tool becomes a cruel and merciless master. He pulls frantically at the heavy iron chains binding his hands, but his desperate efforts remain useless. The wealth he thought would bring him absolute freedom and joy has now become a literal instrument of pain. Trapped inside the massive vault he built for protection, he is a prisoner of his endless, greedy desires. The merchant's previously plump face becomes gaunt and extremely pale, his eyes wide with an agonizing panic. Sacrificing his sleep, he worries about his investments, while the iron chains slowly drain his vital energy. Selling his physical health, he completely abandoned his family, just to gather more pieces of cursed metal. Sitting in the dark shadows of his empty golden cage, he finally understands Solomon's wise ancient words. The love of money has pierced his soul with many bitter griefs, leaving him entirely broken and alone. He gazes at the rusty iron biting deep into his flesh, a physical manifestation of his massive debt. We watch this tragic scene and realize the merchant's cruel fate is a dark reflection of our modern society. We lock ourselves inside these invisible iron prisons, chasing a number that will never truly satisfy. We work endlessly to buy things we do not actually need, trying to impress people we do not truly like. The chains of consumerism and endless debt wrap around us, suffocating our deep joy and stealing our freedom. The merchant weeps bitterly on the cold and dusty stone floor, mourning the precious life he completely threw away. He traded his soul for a temporary illusion of power, and now he must pay the ultimate, heavy price. This powerful allegory from ancient Israel serves as a brutal awakening for our generation.
True authority comes not from power.
We cannot serve both the divine creator and the god of wealth. One will always demand absolute loyalty. The chains of greed are forged link by link through our daily choices, destroying our inner spiritual peace. Is there a way to break free from this terrible iron bondage, escaping the dark dungeon of endless wealth? The ancient words of King Solomon echo across time, offering us a path to find absolute freedom. His warning from 3,000 years ago remains incredibly sharp, cutting right through our modern greed. The Holy Scriptures do not actually condemn making an honest living through hard, dedicated work. Wealth becomes truly dangerous when we worship the gold instead of serving our great divine Creator. We must consciously decide to break these heavy, rusty chains, refusing to be prisoners of the market. Look closely at the wise king standing in the sunlit temple, finally finding peace in his heavy heart. He teaches us that it is vastly better to possess very little while holding deep respect for God. A humble life filled with deep integrity is far richer than a golden palace filled with total fear. See the faithful man walking freely under the bright, warm sun, carrying absolutely no heavy gold. His hands are completely empty, yet his joyful spirit soars much higher than any wealthy merchant king. He does not worry about thieves breaking through his simple wooden doors, because his treasure is above. The gentle smile upon his weathered face reveals a confidence that money simply cannot provide. He works hard in the blooming fields to feed his loving family, but he never lets the market rule him. When the quiet evening finally arrives, he sleeps perfectly peacefully, without any anxious nightmares. This absolute inner peace is the greatest wealth a human being could ever hope to attain in life. True prosperity is measured by the steady calmness of your soul, not the size of your shiny treasure. Solomon wants us to understand material objects are completely meaningless without deep wisdom. He urges our generation to pursue spiritual truth before the final shadow comes for us all. The shiny gold coins we fiercely fight over will eventually be buried beneath the dusty earth. We cannot take a single piece of silver into the afterlife when our human bodies finally perish. Only the quiet strength of our good character will remain standing when the giant empires slowly fall. Do not let the greedy market dictate your absolute worth, for you are much more than a financial asset. We must break free from these heavy, rusty chains of endless desire and step firmly into the pure, bright light. By shifting our focus from gold to divine wisdom, we can finally heal our broken and exhausted minds. The wisest king raises his heavy, ancient scroll, offering the final, profound lesson to humanity. He reminds us that money is merely a helpful tool to serve life, not a master to be blindly worshipped. When you begin to value your spiritual health over your bank account, you finally conquer the world. The faithful man stands tall upon the glowing green mountain, his open hands receiving the warm grace of God. He is truly wealthy in the eyes of the Creator, possessing a heart completely free of selfish greed. We must make this critical choice each and every day, deciding what truly matters in our short, brief lives. The ancient warning echoes loudly through the vast modern cities, challenging our pursuit of empty numbers. Will you allow the rusted iron chains of extreme wealth to bind you tightly until your very last breath? Or will you bravely choose the path of profound inner peace, letting go of the heavy golden burden? Solomon's wisdom remains an absolute beacon of divine light, guiding us safely out of the dark shadow. He successfully shattered the myth of endless material joy, revealing ultimate spiritual truth. Now the choice is completely yours to make, as you step confidently forward into your own great future. Remember his timeless words whenever you feel tempted by the shiny, false promises of the modern world. Money strictly divides society into separate classes, but your attitude toward wealth defines your soul. Is wealth a blessing or a deadly curse in your life? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Please like and share this video to spread the wisdom. Subscribe to our channel to uncover more hidden truth.